He's a great guy, marketing guy, and he's here to figure it out, make it work for Pensacola, and they really want to. Tell him to join us, partner. I think he will.
Well, that'd be great.
Yeah.
I'll be sure to mention.
That's the kind of thing they want to be doing.
We got a nice
He asked me-
$10,000 partnership for him.
He's asked, we to come up with a list of events that they can sponsor in town.
Awesome.
Good afternoon. I'm David Baer. Welcome to the Escambia County Tourist Development Council meeting. Today is August 9th, and it is approximately 3:04 p.m. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for your commitment to tourism development. Danielle, was this meeting properly advertised?
Yes, in the Sun Press on August the 4th.
Great. Thank you so much. Will you please take the roll?
Oh, I lost it. Jeff Bogash,
Here.
David Bayer,
Here.
Mary Hoxing,
Here.
Ronald Rivera,
He's not here.
Oh,
He'll be
sorry.
late.
Shirley Cronley,
Here.
James Reeves,
Here.
Matish Patel,
Here.
Jared Moore,
He won't be here.
and Casey Jones.
And do we have quorum? Yes.
Yes, sir.
Great, thank you so much. All right, public forum. Do we have anyone from the public that would like to speak to any of the items on the agenda today? If you would, if you'd like, you have 3 minutes. I do not see any hands raised or any people coming forward, so we will move on. Thank you. No public comments. Moving on, review and approval of the meeting minutes from the June 21st, 2022 TDC meeting. They were emailed out. Sorry for the late notice yesterday. Hopefully everybody got an opportunity to review them. Are there any objections or questions or comments regarding the minutes? Nope, seeing no objections, let's show them moved, please.
I move that we accept the meeting notes.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Those in favor, raise your hand. So moved unanimously. I think that's all everybody's hands. All right, next item on the agenda is status of funds collected. And I understand Sharon, yes, Sharon is over there. Thank you. From the clerk's office. Welcome, Sharon.
Good afternoon, council members and Commissioner Bagash. My name is Sharon Harrell. I'm the finance director for the clerk of the circuit court, and I'm going to give you an update on the TDC revenues collected. As of today, just over $16 million has been collected, and that's approximately $3.2 million per each penny of tax collected. And I wanted to give you a comparison of the revenue from this time period from last time period. So prior year collections from October to July was about $12 million. This year, for the same time frame, your collections are $16 million. So that's a 33% increase in taxes collected.
Was that with the 5th cent last year?
Yes, the last year was a partial 5th cent. So, and taxes run through the program excise. So those are collected in that program and then posted into the finances of the county. The report was run on August 3rd, so as of today, 9 days later, we have approximately $286,000 still left to post in the revenue. So the reports that you have were run as of August 3rd, so we have a few postings that have occurred. As well as with regard to expenditures, you spent approximately $10 million so far this year. And I'll just give you a quick overview. I'm going to round it to the nearest, 1,000 or million of where the money is gone. So you've paid approximately 7.1 to the Visit Pensacola Unified Budget. You've paid just under 1.4 million for the Base Center. You've paid about 800,000 for just other tourism-related projects that were budgeted. And you've got about 250,000 for marine resources. There's an additional 250,000 for other tourism projects that are paid to outside agencies. And just kind of to recap those few, you've got 75,000 for the fireworks, 55,000 that was designated for the Speedway. You've got 76,000 for the Jazz Festival, 10,000 for the Blue Angels, and about 34,000 to the African American Society. Your current cash balance in the fund today is about $19 million. Now, some of that money is encumbered, so not all of it's available to be spent, but that is your current cash balance. Do you have any questions, or?
Does anyone have any questions for Sharon?
What was the 55,000?
The 55,000 was for, I believe it's for the Speedway.
Speedway?
Yeah.
The Five Flags Speedway,
I
Yes,
thought we did that already.
we did.
you did. This is just a recap of year-to-date,
Gotcha. Not what we owe, what we spent.
what you spent, yes.
Thank you.
I got a question.
Tish?
On the report, it shows Bay Center transfer of 1.25, but you said they have 1.4.
Yes, there was one more transfer that was made since this report was run, because it's usually done monthly, and the actual is actually $1,375,000.
I got you.
So they have a $1.5 million budget, and so we're pretty close to the end of the year, and most of that's been transferred.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So, yeah, thank you so much.
Can I mention one item?
Please.
I did notice that OMB is on next next up to talk about the budget.
Yes.
I did talk to the OMB office this morning, and Stefan had a death in his family, so he's not going to be here. I don't know if he's got a representative or not.
No, I don't see one either. Thank you, Sharon.
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate that. Yeah, we're sorry to hear Stefan's family. All right. So we will move on past the status of the funds. She can't find your phone? It's right there. Sorry. I will go ahead and apologize to Michael Capps for not calling him in advance and ask him if he could give us a report. But Michael Capps, if you have anything you'd like to update us on, we'd love to hear from you. Thank you. Pensacola Bay Center.
No, absolutely, and thank you for the opportunity to come here and engage and update you with what's going on with the Bay Center. I hope everybody's driven by and seen the new work that's going on, with the signs finally coming down. Crane did, as I left, they had to stop operation for some lightning in the area, but we should have that completely down today, finished by tomorrow, just in time to have Lee Bryce on Thursday. We also have Monster Jam with 3 shows this weekend, and then we go back into our project mode. They'll come back, tear down the back marquee, and it will be a fully replaced marquee there as well, using the existing foundation and building up from there. And we do have West Florida Healthcare as our primary sponsor that goes on that. It's one of the most substantial cash sponsors that we have for the venue, and they're ready to come back on board once we get that rolling. Install should start on the 14th. The LED screens are in California. Again, I mentioned at the commission meeting, I'm not sure which box or what port it's in, but it is in country and should be in transit. Our ops director has a call later at 3:30 this afternoon to get an update on that. Moving forward into September, we have Christ for All Nations, which is a very large conference that we hosted in 2019. Over 4 days, we had over 30,000 people come through our doors. It's a day-long event that starts in the morning, goes until 10 o'clock in the evening, people coming and going from in and out of the area. And then we're also hosting Best of the Bay, getting into our catering events that we didn't used to do, but we're trying to get those back. And we're doing the first responders luncheon that's hosted with West Florida as a sponsor, Pensacola State, and Sue Strong's heading up that committee. And we're looking forward to them in September. We also did recently initiated an ice plant repair as well as our ice floor. That's going to be a hot button item as it's coming forward to replace the ice floor and the ice plant. And we're working with county staff to develop those plans, present to the commissioners, and then get a vision to go forward, as well as overall for improvements for the building. We have done an operational audit from ASM standpoint. We've used some old SMG folks to come in and help us with the industry standards and the updated trends to provide an overall scope of what could be done for the building to help get it up to speed, to maintain and continue to bring in clients like Sunbelt Conference, Pensacon, and maintain an anchor tenant like the Pensacola Ice Flyers. So we're in the works of presenting those, have some meeting with staff, working also with our other local partners with Visit Pensacola, Pensacola Sports, City, County, and pulling those resources together. Then we kick off October, A Day to Remember. It's going to be first show. Hope to see you there, Commissioner. Good deal. Its sales are going really well on that one. We are seeing a trend in sales kind of ticking down, so everybody's being cognizant of potential, the R word, with the economic side of things coming forward. So we're paying attention to those trends. We're planning accordingly and budgeting accordingly to make sure that we're prepared to withstand that. This time last year, we were still looking at a shortfall as we went through the pandemic and trying to recover and the budget side of things. Right now, we're tracking a little north of 200 to the good. So we should be looking at a surplus, but we're matching and working with OMB to make sure our cash flow is good, because we didn't have so much cash flow the past 2 years. We're trying to make sure we're healthy and find ways that we can either spend those dollars or maintain the cash flow balance. What we're looking at right now, we've painted our concourses, trying to give a new fresh look. We're working on some landscaping, pressure washing some concrete out there in the ramps. Met with Mike Rhodes and talked about the back fence, doing something to that to, again, make it look more aesthetically pleasing, because it is a focal point of the county coming into downtown Pensacola. You get a lot of visitors that come by there. We're also revamping our sales and advertising efforts. We brought on a new sales manager after recovering from COVID. She's gone through and planned out all of our assets and our inventory, looked at a cost compare with other venues, like venues, what the price points are there, and what sales we could try to materialize. Same effort we're doing with food and beverage pricing. We've done that across the board with all of our venues, as well as doing it locally here, see what Wahoo's are doing, what the Wharf is doing. Right now, we're kind of in line. And I had to send it to my food and beverage director, because I'm a baseball fan. And just for a little side fact, the average ounce of beer cost across every Major League ballpark is 59 cents an ounce. We're a little below that. We're not a Major League ballpark market. So, but we're paying attention to those to make sure that we can find the best bottom line for the building, revenue side, and then also for the experience of the patrons coming in. We also just hosted Marcus Point Baptist Sportsman's Night Out, had over 3,200 in the building for them. It was a great event. We did a VIP experience for them where we served gator, venison chili, and really touched on that whole experience for bringing them in. They really enjoyed the experience and looked to host that as an annual event. Again, that's a church that has a great space to use. They've outgrown it. They're looking at a county asset to be able to grow and make that bigger and better. It's an outreach for them, so it's not just for their membership or their churchgoers, but to bring everybody else in. They brought in 2 of their guys from Duck Dynasty, as well as the guys from Real Tree and Bone Collector. So. With that, any questions you may have of me? Anything you'd like me to update on you that I may not have touched on?
Surely.
The group that you said you'll have, I think, in September, or they have 30,000 people.
Yes, ma'am.
That would be coming in and out of the building. Are those locals, or is that out of town?
It's a mix.
Okay.
So they engage with and it's a primarily international audience. So they do one of our contractors is Hispanic and has a very large Hispanic church that he works with here in town. They actually volunteered and supplied a lot of their workers. So they reach out to different segments of the community to get involved, but they do bring in a lot from out of town. The office that we work with is based out of Orlando. They do these types of conferences worldwide, the largest of them being in Africa, where they have done one with 4 million on one site.
Any other questions? Tish?
Yep. Sorry, the last TDC meeting I missed you, so I probably couldn't speak on this, but the Sun Belt Conference, I don't know if there's a way for you guys to work on it, but I went to some of the basketball games this year, and I noticed that the lines to get in, or for people to get tickets to get in, or even if they had tickets to get in, were very long. Lots of people were upset. Mostly parents, they're saying, my kid's basketball game's already started, I'm still waiting in this line, then I have to go back up and get in another line. I took a couple pictures of that just to kind of speak to you and say that maybe next year or somehow if we can figure out a way to get people in quicker, faster, then that process is a little bit smoother, and you don't have parents upset that, I was here early, but there was nobody here to check us in, and now we're waiting to get in. So, and then one other thing was kind of weird, I'm not going to take a picture of, but in the bathrooms, the urinals, you guys don't have dividers in there, so even my own kid, but then a lot of the teenagers were all waiting on the stalls, and there's not a lot of them, and all the urinals are empty, and it was out the door. So I don't want to take a picture of the bathroom, but I think that to me, that's like a cheap fix, get some plywood and some clamps, and just, if we could put some dividers in there, that would make for a smoother process. You don't want to watch the game, but you also don't want to be waiting in line in the bathroom for 30 minutes to get a stall. So I think if we could figure out a way to do that, that would be good for the experience of the guests that come to Sunbelt or whatever else.
Absolutely, and we're looking at that. That's part of our plan is the fixture enhancements for the restrooms, front of house, back of house, throughout the entire space. I apologize for that experience of getting into the building, Sunbelt. I don't know if that was Saturday or Sunday when we did the Fan Fest. That was our biggest. It was a good success, but it was something that was unexpected. So we've got notes. We work with Pensacola Sports, with Sunbelt, to take a look at the numbers of what we're expecting. A lot of the ticket sales are not really done through the box office. It's done through the box office for the Base Center, but they go to the individual schools. They sell the tickets. So we're not 100% sure on how many are coming up front until they show up. But we're working with them to better forecast that and better be prepared. And that was year 2 coming out of COVID, where everything was shut down. And now this is the first year we get everybody, and there's a lot of excitement. So, but no, we do pay attention. Our number one goal is line throughput for the experience. That's from getting into the parking lot, getting into the restroom, getting through the bar, concession stand, ticket sales, ticket scans, security, you name it, and even getting out of the parking lot and going home. We do pay attention to that, and we want to make sure we cover that. But thank you for bringing that up.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Michael. All I heard you say was that there's an opportunity for the beer distributors to increase prices.
I didn't
Is that what you heard?
directly say that.
You said
but
there was
it's
room.
close.
That's all I heard.
There's room.
Thank you. We
Thank you.
appreciate your report. If Jim Reeves can talk about RV parks, I get to talk about beer prices. Next on the agenda, outside agencies. Darren, you're already up there. Welcome.
There we go. All right. Thank you. You know, in preparing for this meeting, I looked back at my notes from last year, and a year ago, we were still talking about COVID, but now we were talking about the Delta variant and how that would have an impact on travel. And we continue to monitor visitor sentiment and resident sentiment. And our messaging was talking about the benefit of coastal distancing. Interesting how things can change over the course of a year. But a year ago, we also talked about the need for a unified budget emergency marketing fund. And Visit Pensacola also recommended, establishing additional reserve funds for whether it would be beach renourishment or capital development facilities, so that we had funds to develop either a conference center or indoor sports arena that would create additional demand, additional visitor draw into Escambia County. So now, a year later, I am very happy to be able to say thank you. Thank you to the TDC Council and the Board of County Commissioners, because it is my understanding that the recommendation that came out of the Reserve Funding Committee has been approved and has moved forward by the Board of County Commissioners. And so knowing, you heard the big number that's in the reserve account, that a large amount of those dollars are going to be set aside into those reserves, are going to be established. And then there's also a plan that annually at the end of every fiscal year, there's a way to add funds to those reserves. And there's also a policy that directs 25% of that TDT that is above budgeted, the budgeted receipts, that would be a supplemental investment into the marketing efforts of the unified budget at the end of every year for the next fiscal year. So I'm really excited that we were able to move that forward and put that into place. That's going to set funds aside. That puts us in a better position the next time that we're in a difficult time. So speaking of supplemental funds, I wanted to take a little time just to talk about the supplemental funding efforts we've done this year. We've received those funds in late spring. And so I wanted just to share some of the ways that we're spending that money. I mean, we work with Showcase, we work with our research agencies. They provide us a lot of great information about our visitor profiles. We're able to look at where our visitors are coming from and how we can best hone into it. So in addition to our marketing plan that was in place, these additional funds allowed us to go into Atlanta and do an Atlanta push. Atlanta's an expensive market. Money gets used up pretty quickly there. So this gave us an opportunity to do some TV. In fact, I actually went up to Atlanta to do 2 different TV programs to talk about the Pensacola area. And we're doing in Atlanta billboards, YouTube TV as well. We also did a direct flight boost. Even with some of the challenges that we're facing with flights, Pensacola is still easier to fly out of, fly into. It depends on where you connect to and where you're coming from. But we saw an opportunity to reach out, expand on our markets. You see here we're going with our direct flights. And all these plans really started anywhere from May, but are going through September. We talk about how do we get our visitors to explore and do other things throughout the county. We make an additional investment in interest marketing. So whether they're into fishing or birding, diving, we added those to some existing interest marketing segments of history, craft beer, and dining. Again, that runs through the end of September. And then we also did a multi-market digital outdoor and connected TV campaign. And you see the markets there that are ranged from a primary drive market. We went to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different markets as a result of these additional funds. We also got an early start on what we call our winter visitors. That's everything from snowbirds to remote workers, extended stay visitors. So we were able to start that here in August and do an outreach to the Midwest. Work on getting those bookings even earlier. I will say just what we did last year on the vacation rental side, we saw a big increase over previous year. Now when we even look forward, what the trend is again, almost double digits already over what we did last year, which was a significant increase. So we see there an opportunity to continue to grow those winter visitors. And also we're excited about the Chicago Air and Water Show. So we're doing an activation up in Chicago for the Air and Water Show where the Blue Angels perform along with some other flight teams. We'll be there for 3 days and we'll kind of do a little takeover of Chicago. We're doing billboards, we're wrapping some Uber cars with Carver tees, broadcast TV, digital outdoor, geofencing. So we're really gonna showcase that we're a direct flight destination from the Chicago market. It's a great time to talk about those winter visitors. And if those are enthusiasts that really enjoy aeronautic displays, that they really need to come down and see that, see the home of the Blue Angels right here in Pensacola. So we'll be going up next week to do that, and we're working with the Naval Aviation Museum and the Foundation to provide that activation, which you hopefully were able to see outside the building. Called the Cockpit Experience, and they've done an amazing job of putting that together, a really professional, high-end activation, really a great representation of our destination. So what I would like to do a little bit is talk about some of the challenges, because we constantly know that we have an ever-changing market, and even though we've faced a lot of challenges, they continue. So travelers heading back to cities, we certainly benefited last year from a lot of states and a lot of the bigger markets shut down, and so there are less opportunities, less places to go, and people were looking for destinations that didn't have as high as population density. Well, that's starting to trend back, where people are going back to the bigger cities. Number two, business travelers are continuing to stay home. We just haven't seen business travel return to 2019 levels. I think, let's see, right now, about 50% of where they were in 2019. And so that is going to take some time to come back. Air travel is seen as turbulent. You know, we talked about that, we're seeing, because of the shortage of pilots, that we're seeing a lot of cancellations in flights, and that still really hasn't equalized yet, and we're hoping that does soon, because I'm flying out next week, Tuesday. But because air travel is seen as turbulent, what we are seeing is people are opting to drive over flying, just because of the potential inconvenience of having your flight canceled. So people are driving for longer distance, even despite the gas prices. Economic anxieties, well, part of that is when we look at, let's see, where's our report here? Top travel deterrents in the past 6 months. Gas is too expensive, the general cost of travel being too expensive right now, personal financial reasons, and airfare is too expensive. So cost of things is definitely going to contribute to how visitor travel may change. We see ourselves as a phenomenal drive destination for major markets like Atlanta, like New Orleans, and places in Alabama and Mississippi, Tennessee. We get a lot of folks that will drive all the way from Texas too, of course, from Dallas and Houston. So that is something that we'll continue to watch. May impact airfare, air flights more so than our driving donut ring about 350 miles that we focus on. And finally, we need more heads because we have more beds. We're seeing several hotel properties that are going up right now, but the biggest increase has actually come from vacation rentals. A year ago, we had about 5,500 listings for vacation rentals, condos, townhouses, and then it was all of a sudden, this year it was 6,500. So we're up by 1,000 units, which is a significant increase because vacation homes can hold typically more people than a standard hotel room. And really, just in the last few months, that's 300 additional listings have been added. I just checked it, and it was up 300 listings. So, that's inventory that is, I think we've seen more people buying homes being bought up, and some of them are putting them into a rental program. And I think more folks that have condos and even townhouses are doing the same thing. So, these are all challenges that we're aware of. The great thing about our marketing is designed that it can be fluid. We can turn on a dime if we need to respond to those conditions. But I will tell you that our funding request this year is the same as it was last year. And going forward, we'll have that supplemental come in, but depending on how these trends go, we may be coming back to say, we need some additional funding to make sure we maintain what we have and hopefully build on that so we can keep the engine of tourism working for Escambia County. So, thank you, and I'm open to any questions.
Thank you, Darren. Members, any questions? Mary?
Darren, I have a question. So you talked about VRBO rentals being up. What's happening with hotels? Are they going up as well?
Well, we have some new properties that are going up on the beach. That'll happen. We're a year out from some of those really being fully opened. We've got a property out by Ascension Hospital. It's a True and Home 2. It's a combo property that's going up. I think it's 4 or 5 stories. That'll be done here for next year. But we have all of our lodging inventory back. So over the course of this year, we have more hotel rooms than we did last year, about by 5%, just because all that inventory that was damaged or hurt by Hurricane Sally is now fully back in line.
Tish?
Okay.
Hey, Darren, do you know, I know me and you specifically talked about this, but do you know in the county or how, when these VRBOs or vacation rentals are coming, who polices that they actually charge the tax, collect the tax, and submit the tax?
That is handled at the county level. I know Mike Davis is actually very involved in that. Unfortunately, he's not here today.
Hey, Sharon.
Yes, that's pretty much policed at the clerk level. What they do is they have a whole team of staff that actually trolls the web and looks for these, and when they find them, they send them a notice based on the statutes. I believe there's like 50 different statutes that affect collections, so they work through all that, they have workflows, and they've really stepped that effort up.
David?
And Sharon, isn't it true that, so far as I understand it, VRBO and Airbnb, the two biggest ones, they actually collect the tax for the state and send and remit that on behalf of the people, and then, but I know the sending it to the county and the locality is the responsibility of the individual owner.
Yes.
But last time we had a report from Pam at our meeting, she said we're getting more and more money like it's geometric, we're getting more and more collections. But the question that I would have, and I think it's what Tish was saying, was how do we know that, we know that Airbnb and VRBO has collected money for the state, and that's great, but how do we know the county we're getting our piece? Is there any mechanism? Does one hand talk to the other?
Yes, Mike actually talks to the DOR, who's monitoring a lot of the sales tax,
Okay.
which coincides along with the tourism tax.
So if they have a property they're collecting and remitting to Tallahassee, you're able to connect,
Yes,
compare it and say, wait, we're not
yeah,
getting
there's a
any.
program, we've joined a program where they're actually now comparing them.
Oh, perfect, okay, good.
Oh, that's great.
That's like a software company?
The DOR, yes, I believe there's a, Mike, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Mike
that's
can
right.
tell
Yeah,
you
please
more
speak into the
about the program, but there is a mechanism where the two have married up, and there's, I believe it's an agency that we've joined. And so they're comparing what we're collecting versus what they're collecting. Yes.
Oh, great.
And the reason, just
Thank you.
to tell the panel why I asked that question, is because me and Darren were talking, and Darren said the TDC or TDT collections was up. And I said, man, that's surprising because in hotels, or for us, we're down, way down. And not just on occupancy, but we're down on rate. And I said, we don't have hotels on the beach, but we kind of monitor, we don't want to, our rates are never above the hotels on the beach rates. And I said, even the beaches dropped rates compared to last year. And so Darren said that actually collections are up. And I said, who's doing the collecting? And so that's when he said vacation rentals. And I said, well, that's a good thing, but it's not great if there's 6,500 and only 3,500 of them are paying the tax. And then, that's a problem. And so just that's why I kind of asked that question to see who or how that's policed. And just I think apples to apples, everybody should be paying it, whether you have a small house or you have a 200-room hotel. It all makes a difference. So I just think we should make sure that if there's, I'd like to learn more from Mike on how that's done. I know I talked to folks at AHOA, and they actually have third-party companies that police, monitor, and that's all they do is they focus on that. And then they do take a percentage of it, but then they also guarantee that you're not going to miss any collections, which would be a great thing, especially if they can guarantee a rate of return on what we're collecting.
So, yeah, you're absolutely right. Because the county's been doing a better and better job of identifying folks that are putting their condos or their homes in a rental program, TDT is going up just because we're capturing more of that. And I know Mike's been talking to a couple services, one of them's called Granicus, that does that and can really automate some of that process. We actually worked with that firm in another market when I was in Big Bear Lake, California, where 65 to 70% of the inventory is vacation rentals. So I know they're looking into that to even refine it even further.
Can I ask one other
Yes,
question?
please, Commissioner.
Yeah, I read a report, like 2 weeks back, it was out in the media about the rates, the hotel rates in Pensacola, specifically in Pensacola. So, I get it, this is our season, not the winter really per se, but was there any blowback from that you've heard about?
Not
'Cause, it
really.
is
We didn't
expensive
really
there.
see a lot on social media about quoting that. Was it cheap seats or cheaprooms.com? Yeah, I saw that and I'm like, I'm not sure how they pulled those numbers, and
think
there's
they
a lot
compared
of
us to, like-
variables that maybe made it work for us to be the highest one versus other markets because there was so many distance to the beach and you threw out anything less than 3 stars. They really, when you dug into it a little bit more to find out how they came up with their numbers, it made more sense, especially when all our hotel rooms, if we're talking hotel rooms, are in Pensacola Beach. We don't have anything on Perdido Key, and anything downtown wouldn't be included because it's not close enough to the beach to be included in that.
Yeah, I just thought it was interesting.
David, if I could comment.
Yes, please.
To Commissioner. Well, I saw that too, Commissioner, and we laughed. Some hoteliers, we seen that, and I think the rate said we were the most expensive beach in all of Florida, and the rate was $279. And I looked at that and I said, last year my rate at the hotel in town was over $300. So what has changed? But I don't think there's no way Miami Beach, St. Augustine Beach, some of those hotels are in $400 and $500 a night. So I don't know how they calculated that $279, but even $279 to me was, I'm thinking Pensacola Beach is charging more than $279. But just, I don't know how they got that.
That's crazy. All right. Any other questions for Darren? No? Thank you, Darren.
Okay,
Appreciate
thank you.
it. All right, moving on. Pensacola Sports, Ray sent out a report, just an update report everybody got. He's here if anybody has any questions for him. Otherwise, that was his report. Does anybody have anything for Ray? No? Great. Thank you, Ray. All right, ACE. Dr. Harper, come on down. You're next. I understand you have something you'd like to tell us? Give us an update? Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. A couple of months ago, I reported briefly to you on the results of an economic impact study that the Haas Center did for ACE, looking at Fufu Fest, and I was happy to report that actually economic impacts were up substantially for Fufu. And it's for the reasons that Darren has suggested, that marketing has done a better job of reaching our potential out-of-town visitors, particularly in drive-to markets. And what we found was that for the most recent year, 2021, the Haas Center survey research found that relative to 2018, that the economic impact had risen by a factor of over 5. And that's because in economic impact, you only count a visitor, their decision has been influenced if they report that they saw marketing that was a driver in making their decision to come here. And so that additional marketing meant that we could count the spending of more visitors as they came, and that was the reason that the economic impact was up so substantially. ACE has been discussing now with the Haas Center the possibility of doing the report again in 2022. For this, we've decided that we would need more completed surveys so that we could do a better job of drilling down to get information about individual events that are associated with Fufu, which of course is a collection of a variety of different events. And as well, Haas has said that they will implement geofencing so that people can receive on, if they allow it, receive on their devices an invitation to complete a survey about what they're doing here at the Fufu Fest. So what we hope to have is innovations for next time around to allow data-driven decision-making in tourism marketing during our shoulder seasons. We hope to be able to allow a better drill down to specific events associated with Fufu and the early November season. Also, a summary report, executive summary, appropriate for distribution to the group here and to others who are interested. And so those are the basics for Fufu Fest. We anticipate an excellent program this year. I would add that as we see vacation rentals rising by 1,000 and going from 5,500 to 6,500, Fufu is one of the events that can draw them to downtown. And of course, if they're going to be transiting out to the beach, then they'll, of course, need to benefit from better parking, obviously, over time, unlike the hotel visitors who come, park their cars and stay for the week. That increasing number, up by 20% from last year, of vacation rental VRBOs and Airbnbs are going to need to drive every day to the beach and leave their cars there. And so those sorts of things will become increasingly important. So that's my summary for ACE. If there's any tough questions, I'll direct them to Mary, but I'll be happy to take any easy ones.
Thank you, Dr. Harper.
Thank you.
Any questions from anyone? No? Thank you very much. Very exciting. All right. Next on the agenda is the National Aviation Museum Foundation. Naval Aviation Museum Foundation. Admiral Kozad, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the council. It's great to be back, and I appreciate the time today. Hopefully, I know some of you had an opportunity to go out and visit the Blue Angel Cockpit Experience. It's a mobile exhibit that we just received, actually received earlier than we anticipated. If you didn't have the opportunity, I think we have a glossy handout that describes both the trailer, the exhibit itself, and then the truck that we're partnering with Visit Pensacola. We're going to have that wrapped next week. Little history on this project. This started out 4 years ago as a concept, really a museum exhibit where folks could come in and if you had a chance to see it, it looks exactly like a Blue Angel cockpit. As a matter of fact, we like to say it's the same experience that you would get flying with the Blue Angels without motion sickness. So there's an extra bonus there. But we built this as a museum exhibit, and as a concept, kind of it slowed itself down and then accelerated again. We really saw an opportunity here to expand that vision. Obviously, with base access, we're looking for ways to take things out into the public, out in the community. We'll take that traveling exhibit out to Gallery Night in September. We have an opportunity to take it to UWF football games, take it to baseball games, get it out into the community. But, really conversations with Darren have hatched a whole greater opportunity, and really that's why I'm here today. We think there's an opportunity to make this a viable part of promoting Pensacola as part of the Visit Pensacola campaign to get people excited about the other things that there are in Pensacola. Darren mentioned a couple air shows. There's an Atlanta campaign. We're actually taking it to Atlanta in the early part of November, but we're also going with Visit Pensacola to Chicago in the Chicago Air Show, where we'll open that up to, I think, over 2 million people, with an opportunity, again, to be one of the hooks to get them over to the Visit Pensacola booth. So we think there's an exciting opportunity, and quite frankly, I'm up here with an ask about a year earlier than I thought I would be, because the original production had this coming out next year. I had intended on making a budget request in next year's budget at the regular cycle. Fortunately, unlike the rest of the supply chain, we just took ownership of this last year. So I realize this is an out-of-cycle request, but what I'd like is consideration and questions, and certainly I would invite Darren, for any of his thoughts. But, we think it's going to be, I'm not asking to underwrite the project. We've already paid for kind of the sunk cost associated with it, but some assistance with operating costs so that this can become not more than just a museum exhibit and something that really promotes Pensacola and promotes visitation. We think that runs about $100,000. We'd love a long-term agreement with the community, but we're excited about the opportunity to turn what once started off as a simple museum exhibit into something that really represents Pensacola. So with that, glad to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. And I did have an opportunity to go out there and take a tour, take a flight, and your simulator is really cool. Any other comments or questions?
No, Admiral, thank you for being here, and thank you for providing the opportunity for me to go out there to the base and take a look at that right after y'all got it. Really nifty. I'm glad Channel 3 covered it as well. And I do look at it as like an ambassador, a goodwill ambassador that could go all over the country. And while it's primarily Blue Angels, Blue Angels in Pensacola are, tied at the hip. And a lot, like we were talking on the visit, a lot of people in other parts of the country may not necessarily know that this is the home of the Blue Angels. And so I look at it as an advertising ambassadorship. And of course, I'd be very, very supportive of it. I don't know where the rest of the board is, but whatever we got to do, I think it's great. It's a great representation for our community. People come here and they drive by and they see the Blue Angels flying, and it's a very nifty experience. We're spoiled because we see it all the time, but when you see it for the first time and you hadn't seen it before, it's really amazing. So
that's great feedback. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Mr. Reeves?
Now, are you representing the foundation in this request as opposed to the Flight Academy?
Yes, absolutely.
So have you changed teams?
Absolutely not. So my job, just as a refresher, as the president and CEO, I have 2 LLCs. Really, it's the museum operations and also the Flight Academy. So this is specific to the museum.
Okay. And do you get any other money from this group?
We do. So this last year on the budget, I believe the budget that went forward, we had $100,000 supporting the National Flight Academy.
Thank you, Mr. Reeves. Any other questions?
Just so I understand, is this out on the Navy base now?
So it was actually out on Government Street.
Okay.
And, well, the last text I got, there were 4 policemen out there. I'm going to venture to guess that they wanted to sit in the seat and not write it a ticket, but we had coordinated that. So it is on the base. We took a receipt just after the July 4th weekend.
I got you. And is there a charge for that, or just?
So eventually, the original vision was, you can get people out there and $10. So a camera system similar to what the Blue Angels use. You come out, you provide an email address and a phone number, which I think is very interesting to both the foundation, but also to Visit Pensacola, because now you have that database to be able to dig into. So $10 notionally for a photo opportunity. Eventually, we'll have a visual simulator that guests will be able to opt for maybe a different charge.
I got you. I don't know what the board's going to recommend, but I would say, I see on the Ford F-150 where it says visit Pensacola in Pensacola, Florida, but I'm not sure if on the trailer it says that anywhere, so I would say that I'd like to make sure that that was there as well, just so that it's just not on the Ford F-150. That would be a good thing.
It's on the trailer.
Okay.
All right.
Any other questions or comments?
I just want to go on the record that Visit
Yep.
Pensacola is, in support of this type of request. This is said before, it's a quality activation. It's a great representation.
Hey,
of
Darren, will you
something
come
that-
closer to the mic so we
Oh,
can?
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah. I just wanted to say that Visit Pensacola is in support of this request, that the quality of the activation, the ability for it to travel, it certainly garners interest wherever it goes. They've had it out a couple times during the practice flights on base, and the fact that when they go out, people can still come to Pensacola, even if they can't get on base. They can enjoy the practices a number of different ways without actually having to be on base. So I think, the schedule through most of the year that's available is a draw in its own right. We're certainly doing a big partnership activation in Chicago, and we'll have more to share from that. And we'll take pictures and video and show you what that all looks like. Probably won't be as grand for some of the other activations, but in addition to having some local activations, the goal is to get it out and have it out of town, promoting Blue Angels, promoting Pensacola.
So how do you get it there?
So we've got an F-350 truck, so the truck that you see on the handout, it's all tricked out. It pulls the trailer. It's self-contained within a trailer itself. It takes about 25 minutes at the most for us to open the trailer up, expose the simulator, fire up the computer, and allow guests to sit in that and either take a picture or ride the simulator.
Okay. And, you could give him 100,000, Darryl?
I defer the floor.
Yeah. Well, as you know, we have a lot of things that we do in our marketing, and while we're very supportive of this, knowing that there are funds available in the 108 fund account, we're happy to help coordinate that and add it to our budget, but our goal really is to preserve as much of the budget as we have right now, seeing that we didn't ask for a big increase as we go forward.
In other words, heads in simulators don't count?
We would not count them the same way.
Any other questions or comments?
I make a motion that we approve $100,000 on a one-time basis to see how this works.
I'll second the motion, and then maybe next year I'll make it for a one-year basis, too.
Well, I just think we ought to take a look at it.
So we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? And I guess I just have, and I don't know the answer to this question. We don't have a county attorney here, because we don't have this action item advertised on our agenda, if we can take action on this.
Well, let's take a straw vote.
Okay.
It's
We can
got to
do
go
that
to the
for
county
sure.
commission anyway.
Right. So we can do that. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any comments or questions? Tish?
I just want to say, I know you said it's on the trailer, but on this page, it's not on the trailer. So just, I'm okay with the motion and approving. I just would love to make sure that it's just not on the Ford F-150, because that thing can drive away, and then the simulator doesn't say Pensacola or visit Pensacola anywhere on it. Just.
Please come to the mic, Cindy. Thank you.
On the trailer, it's on the back end. So as you pull up, so you see it in front of you when it goes by you at a speed of sound, but you also see it on the trailer as you pull up behind it.
Once you drop, I guess you said that you drop it to
Right.
expose so once you drop it, can you see Pensacola anywhere?
No, well, on the truck you can.
Okay.
The trailer will continue to stay attached to the truck on site when it's set up.
So at the Chicago Air Show, we're actually getting the truck wrapped, but that'll probably be one of the few times that it's detached.
Right, but otherwise it will be.
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay. Thank So I think it's a great marketing piece as well. I think it's, I mean, the Blue Angels are such a huge draw to our area. I mean, if anybody doubts it, try to get to the beach on Blue Angel weekend and get a hotel room and pay the average of $300 a night or whatever it is. Good luck. So I think it's a wonderful marketing piece, and I think, you know, the ongoing expenses are marketing expenses. I'm not exactly sure how that's determined, but I do believe it's a great marketing piece that will do Pensacola and Escambia County well. So we appreciate you guys bringing this
Yes, sir.
to fruition and bringing this idea to us. Mr. Reeves, we can make a comment?
I just think on the same basis that when we have old business and new business on the agenda, then we don't have the issue of straws.
Okay. Yeah, we do have other business.
That's my
I agree.
opinion.
You're the
But
lawyer.
since you didn't pay
You're the
anything
lawyer at the
for it.
table. Okay. Well, if there's no further discussion, then let's take the vote. Let's call roll, if you would. Please, Danielle.
Jeff Bogash,
Yes.
David Baer,
Yes.
Mary Hoxing,
Yes.
Ronald Rivera,
He's not here.
Shirley Cronley,
Yes.
James Reeves,
Yes.
Matish Patel,
Yes.
and Casey Jones.
Motion approved unanimously.
Thank you very
Great.
much.
Thank you very much. We
Yes, sir.
appreciate it.
Thanks for the time.
Thank you. All right. Well, next on the agenda, Sertoma Five Flags. Dave Hoxing, come on down.
Good afternoon. Thanks for inviting me. I do have one comment before I jump into the 4th of July, and that is, as a proprietor of a large beach house, I wish that the county would work it out with VRBO to collect the taxes for the county, because they do for the state. They didn't used to, now they do. And when I called them to complain about it, they said, well, the county's not cooperating, but no specifics. That was a year and a half ago. It certainly would be good if you all would do what you can to facilitate that. Plus, you probably get more money. Sure of it. So we had a good year for the Sertoma's 4th of July. The weather turned out to be nice. The rain stopped at 3. And over the years, what I've learned in tracking attendances is if it's raining up and around the airport and north into the evening, people won't come downtown, even though downtown may be fine. We've actually only had a heavy rain downtown 1 year out of the last, let's see, I've been in this organization for 18 years, really only once in 18 years. So our attendance this year was roughly 53,000 people. That compared to about 39 last year. Again, the rain ended at 3 this year. Last year it was raining into the evening up north. As far as heads and beds go, the last time minority opinion rather, did a survey was 2019, when we had 13,000 people more than we had this year. But at that time, they reported that the spending for all attendees was $3.8 million, and with about $1.3 million, what they call destination visitors, which I guess means people from out of town. Destination visitors, yeah, 1.3 million. So anyway, it seems like it was a successful event. Any questions?
Anyone have any questions? Tish?
Thank you.
Dave, sorry. I've always been to the Blue Angel, the 4th of July fireworks and all that, and since I've been on this board, I've learned what the cost is. Can you kind of explain to me what, I think you get 75,000, Sertoma does, what that goes towards to put on the Blue Angel, the 4th of July fireworks show?
Sure. So I'm essentially the chairman of the fireworks part of the committee, and I'm the longest serving person on the committee, but I don't handle the money. But here's what I know. The county, for the last decade about, has contributed $75,000 from TDT monies. It used to come out of the general fund, and then George Tuart switched it over to the TDT. The overall budget this year, I think, was about $110,000, which includes a considerable amount of advertising, which was provided in kind by the TV stations and radio stations. This year, the fireworks cost $55,000, but they owed us, I guess, about $10,000 to $12,000 in fireworks that didn't shoot last year due to a computer malfunction on the barge. So it was a better show than you could expect for $55,000, but one of the problems that has happened with fireworks is the cost of getting fireworks from China to America has skyrocketed, and it costs more money for this season, this past spring, it costs more money to rent the ocean-going 20 by 20 container than it cost for the fireworks inside them. So therefore, if it hadn't been for what they owed us for last year, it probably wouldn't have been a very good show. But even though it cost them more, they did follow through on their promise to deliver the extra. And then the other major costs are insurance, the barge, which has been donated by Skanska for the last few years, but we hope they won't be here next year. God hopes. And so we budgeted $10,000 for next year for the barge. And so I mentioned insurance, and the costs of the porta potties and the cleaning green and all that stuff just keeps going up and up and up. So this year we're going to ask for volunteers from TDT and its friends to come for the cleanup at the end of the night.
Mary said she'll be there.
As she always is.
Have you guys ever thought about teaming up with the Blue Wahoos? Like, I feel like they do a fireworks show, and then minutes later, Sertoma does one. Would it
Yeah.
make sense to team up with them and just do one?
So they don't do a fireworks show on July 4th. They take the music feed from the Sertoma show and play it in the stadium. And honestly, it's not great because the big buildings downtown block a lot of the lower fireworks. Now this year and last year, the fireworks company provided some bigger fireworks that went up further because we asked them, to try to help give a better show to not only the stadium but also the symphony. And the symphony's been growing really much faster than the people that go to the stadium. So we did get permission, or I did some years ago, from the fire marshal to put a secondary barge off the Blue Wahoo Stadium and then have a coordinated show where the main barge would shoot the beginning of the show, and then the end and into the finale would shoot also off the smaller barge, all coordinated by a computer. But we were not successful in raising the extra $6,000 to do that, so it didn't happen. But it could happen in the future. Sertoma's board, at the time that the Maritime Park was planned, had a long meeting to discuss whether to move the whole thing to the Maritime Park. And then some of the more technically oriented people got a map of that property and realized that there was no way they could hold the number of people that the Bayfront Parkway holds. The Bayfront Parkway is a mile long, and it holds huge crowds. And even with the empty space that's now at the Maritime Park, there's just simply not enough space to hold it. So it doesn't seem to me to make sense to move it.
So how much are you asking for?
Well, for next year, the budget is, I think it's $94,000. So that's the extra money for the fireworks increase, having to rent a barge, and insurance.
So how would we have known that based on your presentation?
Well, I was asked to report on this year.
Okay.
You didn't come asking for money today, did you?
No, sir.
But you'll be back.
Always.
I have a question. Does the city participate at all in the event? I mean, I think they
So,
provide
it's a good question. Prior to 2008, the city provided $20,000 and the county provided $25,000. And then the recession hit and the city decided they couldn't support it anymore. And it was about that time that George Tuart moved it over to the TDT. Since that time, the city has done a lot of in-kind things, not charging for things that other groups get charged for. So they're still a contributor, but not on the level of the county.
Any other questions? Thank you, council member, for all the in-kind.
Oh, yeah, and the other thing that's made this event more and more expensive is when the state government decided that in order to close the state highway, you had to get an MOT. Motion of trucks. I'm not sure what it, there you go, maintenance of traffic. And that's an expensive thing, and we get charged it every year. It's crazy for this exact same thing. But probably that's not my issue today. Thank you.
All right. If there are no other questions, thank you, Dave. All right. Other business. So I do have a question for Commissioner Burgash. You guys approved, at the Board of County Commissioners, you approved the restricted reserve fund plan.
We
but
did
you
with
made
some
a couple of
modifications.
Would you?
Yes, sir.
Do you mind taking a second to just explain what those were?
Yes, sir. I'll go from memory.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't ask you in advance.
No, that's okay.
I can't call you.
That's right. We can't talk about it. We all, and speaking for the board based upon the vote that we took, we appreciated the work that you did, Shirley, and your committee in putting that all together. We just kind of refined the process of how that money would be allocated. The way that it was worded, I believe it was, it limited our ability to be the final arbiter as the Board of County Commissioners, which really wouldn't have aligned with the statute, because the way the statute reads is, we take recommendations from this board, but then we make the final recommendation. So what we did was we took that process and we just modified it to where it comported with statute. So the percentages are the same. The process is basically the same, but at the end of the process, the Board of County Commissioners has the final say. And I think there was one other thing in there where we had to request it from you if we were going to do any, and I apologize, I don't have it right in front of me, but if you go back, we can go back and roll back the tape, and just minor modifications, but for the most part, we accepted the recommendation, just with some minor modifications to align it with statute.
But the minor modification just took the guts out of the motion we made.
I would disagree with that. I don't believe that that's the case. I think what it did was it just made sure that the process comported with what the statutory framework has out there, in that the Board of County Commissioners has to be the final arbiter. We take the recommendations from the Tourist Development Council, but we have to be the final arbiters.
But we made a recommendation.
You did, and we...
And you didn't accept it.
No, well, because as the Board of County Commissioners, Jim, we accept, reject, or modify, and we modified it, but we accept it after we modified it.
I understand that the language that we had on the restricted reserves, we had a supermajority, and that got changed to majority.
That's correct. I'm sorry, that's correct.
Yeah.
We did, because we felt like in some cases it would just be too tough of a burden to get the
Right.
supermajority. Very few things we do require a supermajority. Selling property or buying property above appraised value is, I think, one of the things. So, and sometimes it's hard to get. So that came from another board member, that recommendation.
Sure.
And it drew support.
Yeah.
We know how quickly you guys like to spend that money, so we were hoping for supermajority.
I know, well, we try.
And there was also another, the 5th cent was pulled from all of the equation.
The 5th cent was a tough thing for us to get. It took many, many years. There's still people that want to kill me because I pushed for it. So yeah, we're going to be very, very parochial, I'll use that word, and judicious with how we spend it. That money's got to be, as you guys know, we're trying to do something with that civic center. I mean, it's embarrassing when the air conditioner goes out, Elton John's in town, Michael Capps isn't here, but things like that happen. I've no fewer than 3 or 4 times I've brought before the board a plan to fix it, get 10, 15 more good years out of it. We can't do it unless we have millions banked up. So yeah, we did pull that 5th cent back, but that was always the deal that we were going to make.
Yep.
After the first year, we gave it all to Darren and advertising, it was going to come back to us. So we just made sure we memorialized that in what we approved.
Mr. Reeves, you look like you want to press your button. No? Well, then wait till the meeting. Yeah. Tish?
Yeah, and what's the difference, if you can educate me, on majority and supermajority?
It's one more vote.
Yeah, instead of 3 out of 5, we got to have 4 out of 5.
I got you.
And if there's only 4 there, we have to get all 4. We had that the other night. We had the empty chair, and we had District 2 pulled a no-show again, but we needed a supermajority. So we had the empty chair, so we had to have each and every one of us vote yes for it. So, and if you don't have 4 there, I mean, then it's even more of a problem. Sometimes it happens you only got 3 there, then you're never going to get it. So, anyway, that's what that means.
Any other questions or comments? No? Well, thank you, Commissioner, for taking that to your board and getting it approved. I think that's been a big project in the works, a lot of conversations for a long time about how do we protect our tourism development from natural disasters and/or anything else. And so I think we've got a plan in place now to do that.
And I think if you pull back from it, look at the big picture, you guys really did get just about everything that you wanted, particularly, most importantly, the percentages. I think that's really important. And of course, the board's going to work with you.
Right. Thank you, Shirley, for your committee's work, everybody.
Sunset that committee?
Oh, yeah, do I? Oh, I do need, thank you. Yes, so I appointed the committee, so I'd like to sunset the committee. Their work is completed. It has been approved by the county commission. And so Shirley, thank you for your work, and thank you, Ray, for the reminder. So the committee no longer exists. Thank you. Any other business come before us?
Hey, can we talk about the Pelican Drop and New Year's Eve? I don't know.
Sure.
It doesn't happen anymore, and I used to go to that every year. It was a great event. Can we get behind that and do that again? I mean, I work with the city, work with the DIB. I think it was a great event. Yeah. And I mean, you guys, I mean, don't you think we could put the brains together, Darren, and get that going again? That was amazing. Getting big bands down here, and what happened?
Well, the DIB, just as a reminder, so the DIB was doing it, and they decided at one point to get out of doing events. That's when they spun off the gallery night, and they spun off that, and Mardi Gras Pensacola picked it up, and they put it on, I think, the last year, at least the last year, maybe 2 years, and then they just decided not to do it, focus on Mardi Gras.
So
Danny did.
So who could we get to run it?
Well, I mean,
Where's Dave Hoxing at?
If you
Dave,
put
come
up-
on.
Dave, Darren's here.
Let's get someone to take this on. How about PYP? We'll get them on it too.
Dave?
That's a thought. Cat Country 98.7 Radio has shared the frustration that nothing's happening on New Year's Eve. And we have talked to the mayor, and he claims that he owns the Pelican, so apparently it's available. But what we have been talking about is trying to work with the gallery night people to do essentially a fancy gallery night. Part of this celebration in the past has been fireworks, which are maybe too long and too expensive, and a band that costs a lot of money, because New Year's Eve is the absolutely most expensive time for that. At one point, we were talking with the Bay Center about doing a New Year's Eve celebration at the Bay Center, but the entertainment cost has proved to be unsustainable. The tickets would have to be too expensive. So that's the model that I favor, and everybody that wants to help should talk to Mary Hoxing.
Mary had just committed. Yeah, I think it's a great idea. It was a huge success.
I mean, Mobile does it, and theirs just goes off like
Yeah,
crazy.
their
But I want to
city is
drive over there. I
terrible
want to do it
compared to
here.
ours.
COVID also, didn't it?
Probably. I don't remember when the last year.
I think if we put up the money, I think Mardi Gras would do it. But, everybody kind of backed out on their support.
Well, how much, does anyone know how much it costs to put that? I mean, what was the budget on that? Anyone know? I mean, I just think it's be good for the city, the county, everything. It'll bring tourists in. People will come to town, I think, for it. So Maybe we could put it on the agenda for next time, and we can
Yeah.
each do some independent research. I'll do some research. and
Yeah,
we'll
that would be
figure-
great.
All
I
right.
think it'd be good. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, I'm happy to bring it to the city council at
Great.
some point, as well as to the DIB.
Great, thank you. All right, closing remarks. We'll start down here this time. Tish, do you have any closing remarks?
I do not. Just want to say, glad to see the TDC getting more involved and the work we're doing. I think it's good, and like to see us work hard to keep bringing more heads in beds. Want to be realistic. I'm glad we have the marketing reserves. It just looks like, we all hate to say it, but it looks like the downtrend may be coming. So I think it's good to be prepared for it. And visit Pensacola. Pensacola Sports are doing great work. Hope you guys keep doing that because we're going to need it all over the next couple of years. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman?
Thank you. Just wanted to say thanks for everybody that presented and bringing us the information. It was very informative and helpful. That's all I got.
Thank you. Shirley?
I just want to thank the members of the committee that I had. Everybody spent a lot of time and effort putting the reserves together, the restricted reserves. Ray and Laura from Pensacola Sports, Darren, thank you. Mary, appreciate it so much, and Tish, I appreciate it.
Thank you. Mary?
I just want to thank Shirley for doing all that work. Thank you.
Jim?
I just want to thank you, since you've lost weight, we finished these meetings earlier.
I'm faster. I'm faster now. I'm more nimble. Commissioner?
No, thanks for everyone's time today and for presenting, and I'm very, very happy to hear that we're going to have the Blue Angels out on the road. I think that's going to be fantastic. So Admiral Cozad, thanks to you and your team, Rachel, for being here. We appreciate it. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, thank you. And I want to thank everybody, the TDC members for being here today and all the great work that we can continue to do, but the industry continues to do on our community's behalf. So thank you very much. And spread the word. Pensacola is the best place to, Escambia County is the best place to visit. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Meeting adjourned.